That's right, folks. We're less than 48 hours from Exilecon, where we're going to get a ton of new information about Path of Exile 2, and I couldn't be more excited. Let's get into it. I am Mr. Totebag, and Path of Exile is by far my most played game. And it is with that in mind that I want to lay out my hopes, my dreams, my fears, and my expectations for Exilecon and Path of Exile 2. First, let's talk about what we know already. In 2019, the first ever Exilecon was held, and Chris Wilson, the CEO of Grinding Gear Games, announced Path of Exile 2 in a somewhat emotional keynote.
Well, that feels amazing. Thank you.
During the keynote, Chris outlined what PoE 2 is and what it is not. It is a visual overhaul. It is a brand new campaign. It is a heavy modification and refinement of the existing gameplay mechanics. What it is not, however, and this is to everyone's benefit, is a brand new game that will force you to download a new client and make all new purchases. That's right, you get to keep everything you have, everything you've paid money for. And I can't think of a single other studio that's done things this way. With that out of the way, I want to talk about what we know already, bearing in mind, of course, that some of this information is years old. But more than that, I want to talk about what I hope to see this weekend at Exilecon. First things first, the campaign. It's supposed to be a brand new 7-act story that takes place 20 years after Path of Exile. Evil has returned to Rayclast, or maybe it just never left. One thing's for sure, there'll be plenty of monsters to kill and loot to gather. One thing I'd like to see with this new campaign is more choices and more consequences. We had things like the bandit choice in PoE, but you never really saw any consequences of choosing one bandit over the other, and most of the time everybody kills all three of them for the 2 skill point reward. I would also like to see unique environments for each act of the new campaign. PoE's campaign is fantastic, but Acts 5 through 10 are rehashes of areas we've already been through. They've just been modified. And that's fine, but it does tend to wear out its welcome after a while. Next up, the visuals. We know that everything's getting a PBR makeover. And trust me, physically based rendering makes everything look way more realistic and crisp. We're also getting brand new character models for the 7 playable classes. And this must have been an enormous amount of work. They would have had to rig every single piece of equipment and every single cosmetic to those 7 character classes. In addition, we've seen new lighting, new skill effects, and a general overhaul of the visuals that a game from 2013 deserves and needs. We've also seen new art for a lot of the items in the game, and they seem to create a more unified visual style with some of the gear compared to PoE. I'm really hoping that each tier of equipment has its own visual style, because a lot of the equipment in PoE actually shares art. And now, onto the thing that matters to me most, the gameplay mechanics. The biggest thing that PoE 2 is changing is the gem system. No longer are gem sockets tied to the gear you have equipped. Now, every skill can be a 6 socket, because the sockets are on the gems themselves. This opens up a wealth of build possibilities, and makes it so that we don't have to focus on one damage-dealing skill, with everything else in support, and we can move towards many new playstyles. We're also going to get new weapon types for the first time in PoE 2. Including spears and crossbows, and they're actually going to have their own integrated skills built into them, which opens up build possibilities even further. If that wasn't enough, each class is getting 3 new ascendancies, plus the one for the Scion, totaling 19 new ascendancies. That doubles the number we have in the game right now. I'm sure we're going to get tons of new skill gems with PoE 2, but one type in particular I want to mention are transformation skills. We all remember our druid, werewolf, or werebear from Diablo 2, and to see these being added to Path of Exile as a playable archetype is amazing and super exciting, and I can't wait to use them. The last thing I'd like to discuss is quality of life. I would really like to see better item tiering. I don't want level 85 items to have basement tier stats anymore. I want less loot on the ground overall, less junk, more deterministic crafting. Now how much of that we actually get remains to be seen, but I can always hope. Now, I know I've covered the broad strokes in this video, but these are the things that matter most to me in PoE 2. I'm definitely ready to get into the nitty-gritty, but I don't want to do too much with outdated information. I want to see what they announced this weekend, get really hyped about it, pick it apart, examine every detail, and then I'll be back with more videos. I want to thank you all for joining me today. Enjoy Exilecon and have a great weekend.